Hey there, this is MJ. I love comics and Star Wars, and right now I'm going to be reviewing The Rise of Kylo Ren issue 3. Let me go to the credits real quick. It's written by Charles Soule, art by Sliney, GURU-eFX, or it's the colorist company or computer. I gotta find out what the heck that is. I've been saying that for months since I started this channel. Anyway, or started doing these comic reviews. And then Travis Lanham is the letterer. So, real quick, I am going to be in a slightly noisier situation than normal, and it's just unavoidable. That's how life is sometimes. So anyway, I'm going to accept how life is and try to roll with it, unlike some people. Anyway, that's more about people in the comic than people in real life. So we all know where the Rise of Kylo Ren is going to end, more or less. It will end with the Rise of Kylo Ren. It'll be the fall of Ben Solo and the rise of Kylo Ren. And that's interesting. There are... I'm not going to go on about the art. Sliney, his art is fantastic. There's some really great shots of the... and by shots, I mean well-composed images of. They're cinematic enough to be called shots or to look like, you know, they were planned, storyboarded, and, shot as if, or positioned as if they were being shot with a camera, right? So to be cinematic, like I said. So anyway, the interesting thing about it's uninteresting to continue talking about how good the art is, because it is good, and I'm going to stop talking about it right now. Except to say that I really liked the shots that we got of Luke's temple, Luke's Jedi temple or enclave or whatever you want to call it. And gosh, it makes me think about how desperately I want to go back there and how much I want to see Luke's temple specifically, but really any Jedi temple. Been playing KOTOR again for like the, dozenth time or whatever, and man, that time you get to spend on Dantooine is too little, and I want to beat that and then play KOTOR 2, and I know you get to revisit that, and there's other Jedi temples you get to visit, and then there's Korriban too in KOTOR that I'm excited. Do you go back to Korriban and KOTOR? It doesn't matter anyway. I'm talking about this comic. Sorry about getting sidetracked, but one of the fun things about Star Wars is how big the universe is, all the different corners there are to explore it, and I do like the glimpse that we're getting here. The beautiful visuals of Luke's temple make me want to spend more time there, make me want to read more comics that take place there. So that's how I'm weaving it back into me talking about the comic. But basically, I don't know why I'm doing this, but the plot of this comic, or this issue of the comic, is that Ben finds the Knights of Ren, and then he tells them the story of his kill, of his good kill, or what he thinks is a good kill, and he explains who the people are that are killed. And I actually really love the framing of the story, because you could tell it was a framing device, but it was a very enjoyable framing device. I believe the head of the Knights of Ren currently is named Ren. He's the gray-haired dude. And I noticed Vo has white hair, so I guess in Star Wars land, regular folk can have gray or white hair regardless of their age, because they have, space genes or whatever, which, by the way, Luke wore space genes under his shorty robe. They were like khaki Levi's or something in, or maybe camel-colored Levi's in A New Hope. That's just a little fun fact. And then they threw like wrappings on them over his boots and stuff. I don't know why I know that, but saying, jeans, it reminded me of that. So enjoy that fun fact. Anyway, so Ren asks Kylo, he asks Ben, tell me who these people were so we can determine whether or not this was a good kill. Because in order to get in with us, which we know from issue 1, you need to perform a good kill. And I guess that means like a truly murderous or sadistic or like cold-blooded kill, because they wanted that one guy. Well, I won't spoil issue 1, but they're like, yeah, that was a good kill, but you're not. Anyway, we still don't want you. So I don't quite understand what it is, and I don't quite understand the ethos of these guys. I get the appeal of the dark side, but the way these like badass bros rolling as the Knights of Ren, deal with it, we don't even get enough philosophy or insight into how they think about things. And maybe if he's rolling with them in the next issue or two, because I think this is a 6-issue miniseries, but I don't know for sure, we'll get to see more of what they want out of life, and it'll make a little bit more sense. But they do say that being a Knight of Ren, playing with your shadow or whatever they call it, is like a different path that a different path to knowing and exploring the Force. And they offer that to Ben in issue 2, and then years later it comes about that he joins them seeking that path. So I want to know more about what that path is, why or how it motivates them, and what it causes them to do. Let me see. I think in this issue we actually get the Easter egg about General Hux, who's not the son Hux, he's the father Hux. Who would be important in building up the First Order. He tries to call Snoke, but that's just a little bit of a tangent. Kind of more what I'm focused on, or what struck me the most out of this issue, is you get a glimpse into the 3 characters, Vo, Tai, and the Aqualish. Those the squid face guy, right? Aqualish. And I can't remember his name, but anyway, you get to know about the 3 of them in Ben telling the story about how he got his kill on a Jedi. And you hear who they are. Vo, it's funny, Ren summarizes them as he calls Vo the brawn, he calls the Aqualish guy the brain, because he thought of the Force as a puzzle that he was content to spend the rest of his life figuring out, whereas Vo just wanted to surpass Ben, and she wanted to know why Ben was so much stronger in the Force, and had such greater affinity to the Force, or with the Force. And then the last guy, Tai, he's the bald guy. We had to learn a little bit about him. He tries to get Ben to be okay with the fact that he's the grandson of Darth Vader, which it seems to me, it has to be common knowledge, because, no, it doesn't have to be common knowledge by now, because it wasn't until Bloodline, Star Wars Bloodline with Leia, that took place 7 years before The Force Awakens, that that the whole galaxy learned that Darth Vader was the father of Princess Leia, and therefore the grandfather of Ben Solo. But I think, based on the chronology, the whole destruction of the temple and everything, and him becoming a part of the Knights of Ren, that actually happens 12 years before The Force Awakens. I could be wrong. It's very vague, it's very unclear, and I'm not forking over cash for source books and things like that, because I just want to be able to enjoy the stories. But anyway, you have these 3 people. They have 3 different perspectives on Ben and what he's doing and how he's turned, and Vo and I think the Aqualish guy are automatically oh man, this guy's bad, there's been this darkness in him or whatever, and it was only a matter of time before he turned. But the Tai, the bald guy, he seems to be the most Jedi of that trio, and he keeps wanting to give him a chance, and seems like he wants to take him alive and things like that. He wants to help calm him down and diffuse the situation and find out what's really going on, so that they can get to the bottom of things. And I think he wants to save Ben and bring him back into the Jedi fold. Oh, one more thing that just popped into my mind, speaking of Jedi. Oh no, that was years ago. Okay, years ago when Luke was fighting the Knights of Ren, he said, "I am the last Jedi, but I won't be for long." And he looked at a maybe 12-year-old Ben, and I was a little confused by that, and I thought that maybe he had not taken on any other apprentices, but it seems that it's very likely that there were already other apprentices at that time who he was training up, because I get the vibe that Vo was upset when Ben came along because he was automatically better than her, even though he had been training for less time than she had been. So it does seem like Luke was already training up other Jedi, and he was saying they haven't become Jedi yet. Just because you're strong in the Force, just because you're a Padawan, apprentice, a learner, whatever, it doesn't mean you're a Jedi. You have to go through the trials, become a Jedi Knight, and eventually a Jedi Master or whatever. So I think that's probably what that was all about. But anyway, one of the most interesting things to me, especially given just my perspective on different things in life, and basically on redemption of people. And I think a lot of that has become from Star Wars. Definitely my faith has something to do with me believing in redemption and wanting to see people redeemed, and, you know, wanting redemption myself. But I think it definitely helped growing up, watching Return of the Jedi a bunch of times. My favorite Star Wars movie up until the sequel trilogy came along and changed everything forever. Anyway, I'll just be cryptic with that for a minute, and you can guess or talk to me about that later. But anyway, the idea of redemption stirs really strongly with me, and also I guess it's kind of a character trope where when someone is told that they're bad, they'll eventually be bad. That's something that resonates with me. Not that I ever wanted to just throw up my hands and be bad. I think who I am doesn't... I'm not one of those people who's hip enough or whatever, edgy enough by nature for people to say, oh, that guy's dangerous. We better watch out, or one day he'll become a bad guy. That's just not me. So anyway, but I could see that in other characters, or I could see that in, you know, stories that thing happen. And I mean, I'm pretty sure I've even heard people say that in real life. Well, if that's how they're going to treat me, then I'm just going to be the bad guy or whatever. And that basically happens. Vo is yelling at Ben, telling him that he's a murderer and all these things, and talking about how awful he is. And then he says, "Is that what you want me to be?" And then he almost kills her, and then he regrets it and he saves her. And there's these really cool moments of pathos and conflict, and the layout of the topography, the geographical layout of the situation where this fight is happening between these three Jedi and Ben is such that everyone is disadvantaged and everyone is broken up by the topography where they can't exactly see what's going on. So kind of like how in The Last Jedi you had the Rashomon scene or situation where you get the story of the night that the Jedi temple burned and Ben ran away. You kind of get something similar going on here, which is that Vo sees a certain situation going on. Ben retaliates in such a way. It looks as if he's doing something. The Aqualish guy freaks out. He goes from like 0 to 60 where he's just basically trying to kill him out of revenge. You know, to me, he's touching the dark side in that moment. And Ty sees it all clearly and tries to prevent things from becoming, you know, from the situation from being the worst that they can be. And that was all pretty interesting. Honestly, the way that it was laid out, the topography of it, it was good in some ways because it set up the situation where it was kind of like a tragic thing that happened that actually pushed Ben to accept, like, well, I'm a killer now. I guess I better just go join the Knights of Ren because the dark side is the only thing left for me, especially given who my grandfather was, if he knows that right now, which he may not. But anyway, there was a problem I had. I looked over the panels on that page like 3 times because I couldn't exactly tell what happened. And then at the end, one of the Jedi was dead. And I didn't see the death directly. I don't know how the death happened. Did he force choke the character or the fellow Jedi who he killed, or what happened? I don't really know. But I mean, I find it interesting. I find it intriguing. So overall, I would say this is a recommend. I'm enjoying this story as it's developing. I definitely want to know where it ends. And as much as I've been disappointed with the sequel trilogy, which I'm extremely disappointed, there are certain things that I hold on to and that hold my interest. I thought there was nothing to Kylo Ren. That changed over the course of the movies. He's a more complicated character. There's more that can be explored. I just wish some of this stuff could have been in books, comics, a series or whatever before, whatever happened with The Force Awakens happened. And I just don't like how this was done in a choppy way. But the comic itself, it's good. It's a recommend. If you like these characters, if you like any of the stuff going on in the sequel trilogy at all, I would check it out. And there are things I like in it, although overall I think it's been a mess. But that's pretty much my review. I don't have anything else to say, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Thanks for sticking with me. Check out mjmunoz.com for more of my work. I'm an aspiring author who will gladly accept your financial support through coffee, or you can buy merch from my Redbubble store. Swinging Through Comics can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and mjmunoz.com/STC. Relevant links are in the show notes. If you had a good time, like and share this. I would like people to give me comments about how you feel this comic works. Does it contradict anything, like some of the things I was kind of pointing out or quibbling about, if you know the timeline better than I do, of like, you know, Bloodline versus, you know, where Vader is revealed to be the father of Leia, and you know, how long before the Force Awakens the attack on the temple comes and all that stuff, that'd be great. Anyway, you can like, share this, whatever, subscribe, ring that bell to catch me next time I'm swinging through comics. And I want to draw your attention to, if you're not looking at the video version, or even if you're looking at the if you're listening to the audio, look down at the bottom, look now. I've got 2 images here of a shirt that was designed based on a line from issue 2 of the comic. You know, Luke's fighting the Knights of Ren, and he says, you know, something like, you use the dark side like a hammer, or the Force like a hammer. The light side is a blade, and so am I. And he does it all while he's kicking butt. And yeah, I really liked it. I love character quotes. I don't know if you noticed, sometimes I will frequently title stuff after quotes from a comic or show or whatever, like kind of a real impactful or cool line, and I really liked that line from Luke. I thought it was very, very cool, so I wanted to use it as in a design. So I have Luke wielding his lightsaber, and it says, the light side is a blade, and so am I, and it's got slashes all running through it. I really like it. I think it's a super cool thing. That's up on Redbubble. If you like it, you know, buy a sticker, buy a shirt, whatever, you know, throw me a bone.